The words, sharp and cold as shards of glass, hung in the opulent air of my mother-in-law's living room. Children from a poor plumber don't get to call me grandma. My 7-year-old daughter, Lily, stood frozen, her small hand, which had been reaching for a porcelain doll on the mantelpiece, dropping to her side. Her big brown eyes, usually sparkling with mischief and wonder, filled with a confusion so profound it physically hurt to witness. She looked from the stern, perfectly coiffed woman who was my wife's mother, Eleanor, back to me. Her lower lip trembled. She didn't cry, not yet. It was worse than crying. It was a silent, complete shutdown. I scooped her into my arms, my own hands, calloused and stained with the honest work of my trade, feeling clumsy and dirty against the pristine white of Eleanor's antique sofa. "Come on, sweet pea," I murmured, my voice thick with a rage I couldn't unleash. "Let's go home." I shot a look at my wife, Sarah, who stood by the window, wringing her hands. She offered a weak, apologetic smile, a gesture so inadequate it felt like another slap in the face. She didn't defend her daughter, she didn't defend me. She just stood there, a beautiful, paralyzed statue in her mother's gilded cage. The car ride home was silent. Lily stared out the window, a single tear finally tracing a path through the grime on the glass. I kept replaying Eleanor's words, the venom-laced condescension that had been a constant undercurrent in our lives for the past decade. It was usually directed at me, subtle digs about my profession, my truck, the modest size of our home. But this was a direct hit on an innocent child. This was a declaration of war. When we got home, I put Lily to bed, tucking her in with her favorite stuffed bear and whispering that she was the most wonderful girl in the world, and that some people just had ugly, broken hearts. She finally let the tears come, sobbing into my shoulder until she fell into an exhausted sleep. I walked back into the living room, the fury I'd been suppressing now a roaring inferno. Sarah was on the couch, scrolling through her phone as if nothing had happened. "Are you serious right now?" I demanded, my voice low and shaking. "Your mother just emotionally eviscerated our daughter, and you have nothing to say?" She looked up, startled. "Mark, you know how she is. She's from a different generation. She doesn't mean it." "Doesn't mean it?" I laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. She looked Lily in the eye and told her she wasn't worthy of being her grandchild because her father fixes toilets for a living. "How do you excuse that, Sarah?" "She's just protective of our family's image," Sarah stammered, falling back on the same tired excuse. "She just wants the best for us." The best for us, or the best for her? She has never seen me as anything but dirt on her shoe. The argument escalated, as it always did when Eleanor was the topic. It ended with Sarah retreating into a cold silence, a tactic she had perfected over the years. That night, a chasm opened between us, wider and deeper than ever before. In the weeks that followed, it only grew. I started noticing things. Sarah, who used to be content with our simple life, became obsessed with appearances. There were new, expensive clothes I knew we couldn't afford. She started having late nights at the office, something her marketing job had never required before. She was glued to her phone, smiling at texts and quickly hiding the screen if I walked into the room. My mind, already poisoned by Eleanor's disdain, went to the darkest place. She was cheating on me. Her mother had finally won, finally convinced her that a plumber wasn't good enough. One evening, while doing laundry, a receipt fell out of her coat pocket. It was from a 5-star hotel downtown, for a room service dinner for 2. Oysters and champagne. My blood ran cold. I confronted her that night, the receipt trembling in my hand. She denied everything, of course. She claimed it was a business dinner with a client, that the company paid for it. The lies were so smooth, so practiced, they terrified me. Eleanor, meanwhile, was relentless. During a tense family dinner, she openly sang the praises of a man named Julian Croft, a wealthy investment banker and an old family friend of theirs. "Now there's a man who knows how to provide," she'd said, looking directly at me. "Sarah, you remember Julian, don't you? So charming. His divorce was just finalized, you know." Sarah had flushed, refusing to meet my eyes. The name Julian clicked in my head. I'd seen it in her phone's notifications. The pieces were slotting together into a picture of pure heartbreak. My wife was having an affair with a rich man, the kind of man her mother approved of, the man I could never be. My world was collapsing. The woman I loved was betraying me. My daughter was wounded, and my mother-in-law was orchestrating the entire demolition. I felt utterly powerless. I decided to leave. I couldn't live in a house full of lies and disrespect. I couldn't look at my wife without seeing her with another man, or look at her mother without wanting to scream. One rainy Saturday, while Sarah was out on another one of her errands, I went up to the attic to find my old duffel bags. As I rummaged through boxes of holiday decorations and forgotten junk, I stumbled upon a small cedar chest. It was Sarah's memory box from before we were married. I'd never looked inside. It felt too personal. But now, with my heart already shattered, privacy seemed like a quaint, distant luxury. I lifted the lid. Inside were old concert tickets, dried flowers, photos from her college days. And underneath it all, a thick manila envelope. My name wasn't on it, nothing was on it. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside were bundled letters, tied with a faded ribbon, and a single, folded, official-looking document. I unfolded the document first. It was a DNA test result. My eyes scanned the page, trying to make sense of the scientific jargon. Then I saw the names. Mother, Sarah Collins. Child, Lily Collins. Alleged father, Mark Peterson. And then the conclusion. The sentence that stopped my heart from beating. The alleged father, Mark Peterson, is excluded as the biological father of the child, Lily Collins. The air left my lungs. The dusty attic began to spin. This couldn't be real. It was dated just a few weeks after Lily was born, nearly 8 years ago. 8 years. I grabbed the letters. The handwriting was a man's. They were love letters, passionate and full of promises of a future together. They were signed, "All my love, Julian." Suddenly, everything made a horrible, sickening kind of sense. Eleanor's cruelty, Sarah's distance, the late-night meetings. It wasn't a new affair, it was an old one, a secret that had been festering at the heart of our family from the very beginning. Lily, my sweet Lily, the little girl who had my sense of humor and my love for pancakes. She wasn't mine. Biologically, anyway. Eleanor's words echoed in my mind, but now they had a new, monstrous meaning. Children from a poor plumber don't get to call me Grandma. It wasn't a general statement about my class. It was a specific, twisted, personal attack. In her sick mind, Lily wasn't a plumber's child. She was Julian Croft's child, a child of wealth and status who was being tragically raised by the wrong man. Eleanor wasn't trying to break us up because I was a plumber. She was trying to reunite Sarah with Lily's real wealthy father. The betrayal was so complete, so staggering, it almost felt unreal. I sat there on the dusty floor of the attic for what felt like hours, the world I knew reduced to ash around me. When Sarah came home, I was waiting in the living room, the DNA test and the letters laid out on the coffee table. The moment she saw them, all the color drained from her face. The truth, ugly and raw, was finally out. "Mark," she whispered, her voice breaking. 8 years, Sarah, I said, my own voice eerily calm. For 8 years, you let me believe she was mine. She broke down, sobbing, confessing everything. Julian was her college boyfriend. They'd had a final fling right before she met me. She found out she was pregnant and he wasn't ready to be a father. She was scared. And then she met me. I was kind, stable, and I loved her. She said she fell in love with me for real, and she was terrified that the truth would make me leave. So she lied. She built our entire life, our entire family, on a foundation of lies. Just then, the doorbell rang. Sarah's face filled with a new kind of panic. "Don't," she pleaded, but I was already walking to the door. I flung it open. Eleanor stood on the porch, a smug, expectant look on her face. She was here for the final act, to witness the fallout and pick up the pieces for her daughter. "I see the cat's out of the bag," she said, her eyes glinting as she looked past me to the papers on the table. "It's for the best. Now Sarah can finally be with the man she should have been with all along. Lily can have the father she deserves." That's when the rage I'd been holding back finally exploded. "The father she deserves?" I roared, stepping towards her. "I am the father she deserves. I was there for the first steps, the first words, the fevers, the nightmares. I taught her how to ride a bike and how to be kind. Where was he? Where were you? You who looked at this perfect little girl and saw nothing but a financial disappointment." Lily, woken by the shouting, appeared at the top of the stairs, her eyes wide with fear. My heart broke all over again. I took a deep breath, my resolve hardening into steel. I looked from Eleanor's hateful face to Sarah's tear-streaked one. "He can have you," I said to Sarah, my voice dropping to a low, final tone. "But he can't have my daughter." I walked past them, up the stairs to Lily. I knelt down in front of her. "Hey, sweet pea," I said softly. "How about you and me go on a little trip? Just us." She nodded, her little arms wrapping around my neck. The DNA test didn't matter. The blood didn't matter. Love mattered. Showing up mattered. I was her dad. That was a truth no piece of paper could ever change. I packed a bag for her and one for me. I walked down the stairs, holding her hand tightly. Sarah was sobbing on the floor, and Eleanor stood in stunned silence, her victory having turned to ash in her mouth. "You will never see her again," I told Eleanor, my voice devoid of all emotion. "You don't get to be a grandmother. Not to her." Then I looked at Sarah one last time. "I loved you," I said, "and I will love our daughter enough for the both of us." I walked out the door with my little girl, leaving the wreckage of a life built on lies behind me. As we drove away, Lily looked up at me from the passenger seat. "Daddy?" she asked, her voice small. "I love you." "I love you too, sweet pea," I said, my own tears finally falling. Always. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, it felt honest. It felt real. I was a plumber, a man who worked with his hands. And I was a father, and that was more than enough.